This morning I tried to remember her voice. I closed my eyes. I sat very still. I waited. Nothing came. Not one sound. Not even a whisper. And that scared me. More than anything has scared me in a very long time. Because Eleanor's voice, the way she said my name, the way she laughed at things that weren't even that funny, that voice has been with me my whole life. And now it's just, and I don't know when it left. I don't know if it's been gone for a week or a year. That's the part that keeps me sitting in this chair. I didn't notice. I was supposed to notice. And I didn't. My name is Walter. Walter Calloway. I am 89 years old, and I have been sitting in this kitchen since 6 o'clock this morning, trying to hear my wife's voice inside my head. She's been gone 4 years now. And today I lost the sound of her. Eleanor and I got married in 1961. I was 27. She was 24. We got married in her mother's backyard in Ohio. There were maybe 40 people there. Someone's uncle played guitar, and he wasn't very good, but everyone clapped anyway. Eleanor wore her mother's old dress. It was white and a little too big in the shoulders, and she had it fixed at the waist. She walked toward me through the afternoon sun, and I remember exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, I am not ready for this. Not because I didn't love her. I loved her more than I knew what to do with. But I was 27 and I thought love was something you just had. I didn't know yet that love was something you had to keep choosing every single day, even on boring days, even on tired days, even on days when you'd rather just read the paper and go to sleep. Nobody told me that part. Or maybe they did and I wasn't listening. We moved into a little house on Clement Street. 2 small bedrooms. And the kitchen was so narrow that 2 people could not stand in it at the same time without bumping into each other. Every morning we would squeeze past each other reaching for the coffee or the toast, and I used to get a little annoyed by it. I used to say we needed a bigger place. I was wrong about that. That little kitchen was the best room I ever lived in, because every morning Eleanor and I had no choice but to be close. We had to hand things to each other. We had to turn sideways and say excuse me, and reach across each other's arms. And it was small and a little silly, but it was us. It was the whole beginning of us. Just 2 young people bumping into each other in a too small kitchen on Clement Street, trying to figure out how to share a life. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I thought it was just a kitchen. If something in these first few words is already sitting with you, if you've ever loved someone and felt like you didn't do it quite right, I'd ask you kindly to hit subscribe. Not for any big reason. Just so that next time I sit down and say something like this, it finds its way to you. I worked in insurance for 31 years. I went to work early. I came home tired. I sat in my chair. I read the paper. I went to sleep. Then I did it again the next day. I was there every night. I never disappeared. I thought that was enough, just being there, in the house, paying the bills, showing up. I thought that's what it meant to be a good husband. Eleanor never told me I was wrong. That's one of the things I think about most now, alone in this house. She never sat me down and said, Walter, I need more from you. She never complained. She just kept going. She called her sister. She read her books. She grew things in the garden. She laughed at the television in the other room when she thought I wasn't listening. I was listening. I just didn't think it was something I needed to be part of. There's one night I think about more than almost any other. It was 1974. We'd been married 13 years. Eleanor walked into the living room where I was reading the paper. She stopped in the doorway. She had her arms wrapped around herself, not because she was cold, just the way people hold themselves when they feel a little unsure. She said, Walter, do you still find me interesting? I looked up. I said something like, of course I do, Elle. What kind of question is that? And then I went back to reading the paper. She stood there a little longer. Then she walked back to the kitchen. That was it. That was the whole thing. 30 seconds, maybe. And then it was over. But it was never really over, because I have thought about that moment almost every day for 50 years. I have thought about what was underneath that question, what kind of week she'd had, what she'd been feeling alone in that kitchen, what she needed me to say, really say, and what it cost her to finally ask. She walked to that doorway. and she was brave enough to ask me. And I went back to the paper. Eleanor used to sing to herself when she cooked. Not whole songs, just little pieces of songs, a few words, then quiet, then a different song, then quiet again. Old songs, mostly. Songs from before we even met. I used to hear it from the living room, and I'd think, that's Eleanor in the kitchen, singing. And I'd turn the page of whatever I was reading. I never once walked in and asked her what she was singing. I never asked where she learned it. I never asked what it reminded her of. I never stood next to her at the stove and just listened. I could tell you the name of nearly every client I had at work in 1978. I cannot tell you a single song Eleanor sang in our kitchen. That's the kind of thing you don't understand when you're young. You think the big moments are what matter, the wedding, the anniversaries, the trips. But it's not the big moments, it's the Tuesday evenings, it's the little songs in the kitchen that you don't bother to ask about. That's where the real life is. And you only understand that after there are no more Tuesday evenings left. If you know someone who needs to hear this, a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, someone who loves somebody but maybe isn't paying close enough attention, please share this with them. You don't have to say anything. Just send it. That's enough. We had 3 kids. Robert came in 1963, Susan in 1966, Peter in 1970. 3 good people, really good people. And I will tell you, honestly, Eleanor is the reason for that. I was around. I coached 1 season of Little League. I showed up to the school plays. I paid for college. But Eleanor was the one who sat with them. She was the one who knew what they were worried about, what they were dreaming about, what kind of day they'd had. She knew how to just be with people. I was still learning what that meant. In 2003, Eleanor was told she had a heart problem. Not something terrible right away, something the doctors said could be managed. She took it calmly. She learned what she needed to do, and she did it. She didn't make a big scene about it. But something happened to me when I heard that news. Something shifted. Very slowly. Very quietly. Like a door that had been stuck for a long time finally starting to move. I started going outside with her while she worked in the garden. Not to help, she didn't need my help. She knew exactly what she was doing out there. I just started bringing my chair outside and sitting near her, watching her work, talking sometimes, not talking other times, just being in the same space without needing to do anything. It felt strange at first. I didn't know how to just sit without a purpose. But Eleanor never made me feel strange about it. She just accepted it, like it was normal, like I had been doing it all along. She gave me that. She let me arrive late, without making me feel like I was late. Stay with me. I'm getting to the part that's hardest for me to say, and I think it might be the most important part. Don't go anywhere just yet. Those last years from 2003 all the way to 2020, when she passed, those were the best years of our marriage. I'm not proud of that. I don't say it to make myself feel good. I say it because it's true, and truth is the only thing I have left to give. We were old. We didn't go many places anymore. The world had gotten quiet around us, fewer friends still living, kids grown and busy, days that moved slower. And inside all that quiet, we found something. Something we had lost a long time ago and hadn't known to look for. We started eating breakfast slowly. I know that sounds like nothing, but when you've spent 40 years rushing through mornings, eating breakfast slowly is everything. We'd sit at the kitchen table, a bigger kitchen by then, nothing like Clement Street, and we'd just talk about small things, about the neighbor's dog, about something she'd read, about memories that came up out of nowhere, things from before the kids were born, things from that first little house, things from a backyard wedding in Ohio. She told me things in those years she had been carrying for a long time, and I finally knew how to listen. That's the hardest thing to hold, even now, that I learned it, that it was something I could learn, that the man who went back to the newspaper in 1974 was not broken, he just hadn't learned yet, and learning was possible the whole time. I just started too late. The last real conversation we had, the last one where she was fully herself, where she was completely Eleanor, was in the garden. April of 2020. The whole world was shut down and strange, but our little backyard was the same as always. Eleanor was doing something with her roses, and I was in my chair by the fence. She looked up at me and said, out of nowhere, "Walter, I think we did all right." I said, "I think so too, Elle." That was it, 5 words from her, 5 from me, and it was enough. It was the most enough anything has ever been. Because those 10 words carried 60 years inside them. They carried the Clement Street kitchen and the 1974 doorway and the garden chair and the slow breakfasts and all the years I didn't know how to listen and the years I finally did. It was all in there, all of it. In 10 quiet words on an April afternoon, she died that October, at home, quietly, with me and Robert and Susan in the room. She was Eleanor right until the very end. If you've made it this far, if you've been sitting with Walter and Eleanor this whole time, thank you. From somewhere real inside me, thank you. If this story touched something in you, please hit the like button, and if you have something to say, anything at all, leave it in the comments. I read everyone, every single one. I have been alone now for 4 years. Her things are still in the house. Her gardening gloves are by the back door. Her books are on the nightstand. There's a little painting she made of our backyard, hanging in the hallway. She painted it in 1999, and she never thought it was very good, but I always thought it was exactly right. I talk to her sometimes. I sit in the kitchen in the morning, and I tell her about small things. What the roses are doing, what the weather is like, what Robert's kids said on the phone. Last week I told her Peter is moving closer, and I said it the way you say good news, with that little lift in your voice. And then I sat in the quiet for a long time. The quiet in this house is very specific now. It has a certain weight to it. Most mornings I can sit inside it and be okay. This morning was different. This morning I could not hear her voice. I've been trying to explain to myself what exactly is gone. Because not everything is gone, I want to be clear about that. I still have her face. I have it in photographs, and I have it in my memory. That particular way memory holds a face that isn't quite a photograph, but isn't quite imagination either. I have her hands. I have the way she moved through a room. I have her laugh. I think I still have her laugh, though now I'm afraid to check. But her voice, the way it sounded when she said, "Walter, that is gone from me this morning." And I don't know when it left. I think it left the way most things leave. Slowly, a little bit at a time. So slowly you don't notice until one morning you reach for it and find empty space where it used to be. There are things I would tell her if I could hear her answer back. I would tell her the roses are doing something unexpected this spring, coming back stronger than I thought they would. I would tell her I finally read the book she left on her nightstand, the one she never got to finish. I would tell her it was very good, and that I understood why she was reading it, and that I wish we had talked about it together. I would tell her I went back to the Clement Street house last year. Robert drove me. I stood outside and looked at it for a while. They've put in a big open kitchen now, modern, bright, completely wrong, and I would tell her I'm sorry about the paper. She would know what I meant. She would smile at me in that particular way she had, and she wouldn't say I told you so, because that was never Eleanor's way. She would just smile and hand me something, a cup of coffee, a piece of toast, and we would move on. That was always her way, moving on without making you feel bad for being late. I want to ask you something small. If there's someone in your life, someone you love, and somewhere in the story you thought of them, their face came into your mind for just a second, please don't wait. Call them. Go find them. Sit in the same room with them, and don't look at your phone. That's all. That's the whole thing. And if this story meant something to you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear it today. I don't know how many mornings I have left. I'm not being sad about that. I'm just being honest. I'm 89 years old. The math is what it is, but I've been thinking about what I want to do with the mornings that are left. And the answer is simple, not fancy, just simple. I want to pay attention to the roses, to the quiet, to the way Robert laughs on the phone, exactly like Eleanor laughed, the same sound, and it undoes me every time, and I have never told him that. I want to tell him that. I want to be the man who puts down the paper and walks into the kitchen, even now, alone. I want to practice being that man, so that if there is something after this, some place where things that belong together find each other again, I can sit down across from Eleanor and say, I learned it, Elle. Late, crooked, not all at once, but I learned it, and she will smile, and she will hand me something, and we will move on. I'm going to stop now. My name is Walter Calloway. I am 89 years old. I loved a woman named Eleanor for 62 years. I loved her badly for a long time, and then I loved her better, and then she was gone. And this morning her voice went too, and I sat in this kitchen chair, and I felt the whole weight of a life all at once. That's all I wanted to say. You already know who you thought of while you were listening. You already know what you want to do about it. I'm just an old man in a kitchen chair telling you what I found out. And if you want to stay, if you want to be here the next time I sit down to say something true, there's a little button on this screen that will make sure you don't miss it. I'd be glad to know you're there.